Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you so much for being here with me today. You are rocking with your girl, Dr. Dorina Shine, and you are listening to the podcast Journey of a Healed Success Stepper. We're going to be going over the criminal case of State of Ohio versus Dorina Shine. We're going to continue to move forward with that because that's where the healing literally takes place in my life. And so I want to invite you on this journey so you can see the mistakes that I made so you won't have to do the same. So welcome, and thank you so much. You know, emotion can do a real big number on the mindset. And add emotion with grief and loss and, distractions, disturbance, lacing, or anything, life. You're going to come up with a different perspective. And you're going to have a great sense of life. When things like that occur, you're able to see for yourself the true, genuine nature of what a person really goes through. And this is why, in my criminal case, it had to deal more with the lacing, and then it had to deal with the accountability of me being responsible for the decisions made under the involuntary intoxication. I was not planning to get certain things submitted into my body. It was against my will. And I was a victim. But because I created a criminal act under the victimhood, it became a victimless crime. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, because it could happen to anyone. It literally happened with the neighbor. So until you realize the triggers and your mindset, until you get to that mindset focus, that's the only way you're going to be able to say, I am willing to heal. I'm willing to do what I need to do now in order to heal now. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Step number 8, the power to build or to destroy is in the actions that we take as human beings. Clarence 13X. Come on, let's go. So, as I am processing my life and I'm going through the struggles of understanding, comprehending, dissecting, and creating a life space for myself, I start to realize that emotional healing was needed. I was needed to heal because there had been so many traumatic wounds in my life. As a woman hitting her 30s, having both failures and successes happen at the same time, along with the shifting of the universe, along with the shifting of life itself, okay? So Emotional Healing Solutions tapped into my mindset while I was home, waiting on bond for 5 years and trying to continue on with my life while all that was happening. I'm still waiting. I'm still literally at this point in time waiting on life to make a decision of sentencing and all of that. So as I'm moving, divine intuition tells me that there are some points that I need to really make regarding my decision making, because my decision making hadn't been so good, because if it was, I never would have got into the headspin that I was in when I caught my criminal case in 2011. So thank God I am healed from this entire journey. The time has been served. I am no longer I'm an ex-felon. I have served my time, done my just due, and now moving on with my new chapter. I'm closing the chapter of this area in life, but I want to share with you some of the mistakes that I can look back, hindsight, and say that I definitely made, okay? Now, like I said yesterday, you take away the third party, you take away the neighbor, you take away the court system, you take away the anger, you take away the additives within the lacing. You only have healing. That's it. You cannot worry about anyone else. You have to care more about yourself than anyone else. This is where divine intuition comes in. It starts to tell you that there's a certain type of way you need to think and process things. Not just immediately, whenever there's an action, there's an opposite reaction, immediate reaction. No. What we need to do is, sit with your emotions. So say a circumstance happens. Say, you just got a parking ticket. You just got a, speeding ticket. Your girlfriend just told you she wants to break up. Your dude just got off the phone with somebody you think he's messing with. It could be 1,001 different emotional situations. Okay. So in order for us not to emotionally relapse, what we need to do now is sit with our emotions, period. Give it a couple minutes. Because one thing that I realized that I had done in the course of growing through my emotional healing was I would always jump at, triggers. I knew I saw them. I knew they were prevalent. I knew they were right there in my face. Don't play in my face. Don't play in my face at this time in my life. So then I would just jump at it. Okay. But what I realized as I sat back and dissected some of my emotional relapses, I said, one thing I never did was sit with my emotion. I never sat there and really, really thought about what I needed to take in. Like maybe take this person's point of view. Maybe look at the perspective. Maybe, pull the, at this point, of course, we're all born egoic. Wouldn't it be amazing if the way society worked was that you got all this knowledge of self first and then went out into the real world and then got tested? You would not do the same thing that you did had you not knew all of this stuff. So it's a very unfair game of life, the game of life. But the goal for the success stepper is to defeat the game of life the way the enemy plays it. Don't become the enemy. Hurt people don't need to hurt people. You can heal. Heal people, heal people. See? So sit with your emotions. Check in on your thoughts. Are you thinking about, oh, yeah, okay, for instance, in my criminal case, my neighbor, I know that I was laced by her. I know there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it that I was laced. And she knows it and I know it. So in my heart space, I know I want to go off on somebody really, really, really bad because you just now mess with my money. You didn't mess with my finances. You didn't mess with my future. You didn't mess with my opportunity to link with the perfect name. Because at that point, I had a perfect name. And then I had to check in with my thoughts. I had to see, oh, you thinking about doing that? Is that what you're thinking about doing? See, the mind starts to program and process what it wants, what you want it to do. And the ego is really going to break you down right here. So when you check in on your thoughts, you make a decision. Then you say, okay, I'm deciding to do this. This is how I'm going to do it. This is what I'm going to do. When I get home, I'm going to mind my business. I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to be busy all the time. I'm not going to have anything to say to this lady. I know we are on two different separate paths. May God bless her, but I'm going to keep it moving. That's what I'm going to do. So I made that decision. Then I had to rethink the decision in the same moment. Now, are you sure you're going to be able to handle this type of, disrespect? Like this woman really basically tried to unalive you with poison. And then you make the final decision. And that's the key right there. When you can literally set yourself up to make that final decision, Just like when you're playing the Wheel of Fortune. The question is asked and then they say, are you sure you want to pass? Or yeah, I'm going to pass, or yeah, I'm going to do this, or yeah, I'm going to do that. The question then remains at that point, are you sure? Are you sure 100% that you want to do this particular thing? You sure you don't want to go wild out? You sure you don't want to, make this thing, you know, go get your lick back? You sure you don't want to do that? Then I have to say, no, I don't want to do that. Even in my heart, I may have felt that way. I still said no. I don't want to keep this thing going. I'm not that type of person. I'm going to let it be. And that's what step number 8 saved my life. Because, of course, I've never been on bond before. Of course, sometimes you could put things in the back of your mind and think that you've succeeded, think that it's over, and then you get lazy, you get lax, and then the next thing you know, you're making another mistake. Now you got another case, and while you on bond, and now you got warrants out, and this is how people get caught up in the trap. They get caught up in the system because they don't know how to just deal with the circumstance and face it head on, learn from that mistake, and keep it moving, right? They don't know how to do that. They don't want to do that. But what I had to learn to do was just that. And it felt good. It felt great for me to honor myself enough to know that I need to put some steps in my life. And when AA wasn't able to provide me the steps I needed, I made my own, my emotional healing solution steps, because those are the steps that made me see that I was worth it. You have to feel that you're worth it in order for you to authentically show up for yourself. And see, I believe in these steps, Dr. Dorina Shine was being created. Like a pseudonym of everything that I had done in my life, what I experienced, my expectations for my future. Dr. Dorina Shine, along with the hard physical work of going to school, going to graduate school, going to, doctorate school, making sure that I was able to play the role certifiably, if you will. So I believe that in these steps, Dr. Dorina Shine is who you see in front of you today. Because other than that, I would have been addicted. Because I'm an all or nothing. I'm going to be an all or nothing. And whatever I do, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, to the best of my capabilities. And that on a physical, low vibrational level is very bad. When you could say that whatever you do, you're going to do it to the best of your ability. You're not going to know boundaries. You're not going to feel other people's situation. You're not going to put yourself in other people's shoes. You're just going to be selfish. And that is what could have happened, but I had a heart. See, Dorothy on the Wizard of Oz, she had a heart, but the Tin Man didn't have a heart. The lion didn't have courage. And the Scarecrow didn't have a brain. Right? Imagine every single one of those individuals being human and still lacking that very thing. No courage, no heart, no home, no heart, no brain. Then you can put yourself into a perspective that makes it make sense for you. Because, of course, if you don't have a brain, you don't think. If you don't have a heart, you don't feel. If you don't have courage, you're not going to stand up and be strong. So you're going to become basic. And in this basic necessity of life, people who are on the top are going to bury you by your own free will. But if you don't find a way to come out of that scenario, then you're always going to be wondering how you could have made it better. how you could have done it different. And of course, it's never too late. That's what I learned. I said, wow, my whole name is gone. It's tainted. It's done. But one thing my counselor, Mario, told me, he said, it's never over until you say it's over. And then he said, remember, you are the main character in your story. You create the revelation that you want others to know about your legacy. See, the court system can only take it so far to the judgment. But what happens when you elevate beyond that judgment? What happens when you elevate beyond the scope of what others decided that normal people do this in a certain perspective, so you're probably going to do that as well. That's what I want you to really, really consider when you're going through the power to either build or destroy your character. Even when you have people coming up against you saying that you're insane. And again, we're going to go over, after I'm done with these 12 steps, I'm going to go and move into the actual court case. And we're going to look at the docket. We're going to go step by step with everything that was done in the court system. And you're going to find that the appellate decision was made competent. I am intellectually sound. I'm not crazy. I'm not, spontaneous to the degree where I'll just spaz out just because, we're having a conversation or anything like that. That's not my method of operation, or else I wouldn't have been qualified to be a director of a nonprofit, a agent of an LLC, partners within organizations that are strong, legitimate companies that have a good background, a good standing. And I wouldn't be put in a position to where I can teach this knowledge and not waver. See, one thing you're going to find out about Dr. Dorina Shine is there is no wavering. It is teaching morality to the point where when you see a scam, you'll know it is such. For example, very, very influential situation regarding an individual who came to me and said that some things that they wanted me to know about my future and all of that. See, I'm not that type of person to believe what another person has to say. No one can put a spell upon my future. No one can give me accolade or be proud of anything that I have done that they were never a part of, that they didn't work with me in order to progress upon it. And then some who had been there just to feel the pain, just to see me go through it in order to get off on the pain that they saw me going through. They don't have a right in the success of the future either. Okay? So when your eyes are open, a lot of things are going to fall away. People are going to stop being as bold and adamant as they are. But for every level you go, there's going to be new ideas of how the game of life is going to be played. They never expected you to get to a certain level, so the game stops at a point in time. So I need you to be very cognizant of that. The game is not going to continue once you have realized that you've elevated to a success stepper, because you were not supposed to get there and they weren't smart enough. Believe me, if you have a narcissist and a bully that controls the basic functions of day-to-day individuals with destruction of information, with, devastating challenges, unnecessary problems, they're not going to create something beyond where you should be going. So they're only going to stay as basic as their thought process can take them. So you have no worries. I don't believe that when you hit another level, you're going to have people trying and testing you. But then when you put them in their place and you hold your boundaries and you stay 10 toes down with what you have to do and you know who you are, nobody's going to be able to play that game with you like they used to. They can't. They can't. They will never show up. But you got to be aware that they will try. And yes, we've never gotten to all 48 rules of the enemy, but I'm sure they all look the same. So I want you to think about that as you go through your challenges, as you go through your dark night, as you go through your growing pains and healing from the awakened being you are now. When you bust through that glass ceiling, you sit down and you heal yourself. And that's one thing that counseling definitely taught me. And you can even listen to a counselor, but so much. When a counselor starts to tell you things that does not apply to your journey, and it's not helpful and convenient for you, then you have the right to cut that counselor off. Because if they're not assisting you in a productive way for you to grow beyond your basic healing, then they don't need to be there. They're a thorn in your side. And believe me, anyone from a pastor to a teacher to a mentor to anybody that you connect to, you have to have that open relationship that you trust them. And trust is not something you're going to just befriend immediately. You're going to make that person earn that right to be trusted, to be a friend to you, to be aware of some of the life scenarios that you've gone through. They're going to have to go through something with you in order for you to call them a true, genuine friend. There are no friends that just pop up. No, those are the ones you really need to watch. Because the hidden agendas in today's society, we already know. We don't get down like that. There's no such thing as a friend that I just met. I used to be like that when I was younger. When I was like 16 or 17, I was catching the bus, the MARTA, when I was in Georgia, Atlanta, or the WRTA when I was in Ohio. One of the things I would say, oh, I met this nice friend. She's my friend. I met her on the bus, or I met him on the bus. They are so cool. My mom would say, wait a minute, how you can't have a friend until you know who they are. You got to get to know them first, because if not, they're coming in and you're wearing blinders. You're wearing rose-colored glasses. I'm like, oh, no. And sure enough, I'd have to go right back and tell my mom exactly what she said was correct. I hated doing that. But I felt like I got a lesson after going to her and telling her. And I got the memo that what she was teaching, I caught it. And she was very proud of me, as well as herself, as giving me the right decisions to make. Although she let me make my own mistakes. And I tell you, I didn't make too many of them. I think I did a good job. But sometimes we just don't see it. We don't see it. We don't see it until it's too late. So with that, I thank you all for being here. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe to this channel. Also share this video with anyone that you feel would need this support. Also, if you need to contact me, my information, my shine dorina@gmail.com is available. You can send me an email or you can DM me from wherever you see these videos. If you have something you would like to talk about, feel free to drop it in the comment box. Thanks to all the commenters on TikTok, on Instagram, and also over here at YouTube. Thank you for paying attention to these videos. And things happen in time, and it's a beautiful time. So don't forget that, and we'll see you next time.